great reader for you all tonight. I'd like to introduce Samantha Inman. Samantha published her debut novel, Tea Time, in the summer of 2019, just this summer, and she is already working on future projects. Please welcome Samantha.
So I've got a selection. It's really, I'm kind of jumping between, but it carries on the same part of the story. I'm starting with a part of my character who, she's lost her father a year ago, and she's dealing with a lot of stuff at work. She's a detective. She got really too close to a case, and her boss has kind of benched her, and she has decided, you know, okay, I need to take a step back, get a different perspective. And she's with her mom, and she's dealing with life, and she's dealing with a bunch of other stuff that's going on, and she's trying to put pieces back together, and she's trying to help her mom put pieces back together as well. And I'm going to read this passage, and this passage is, well, one of the main characters is actually inspired by a really dear friend of mine, and this passage reminds me of her this week, and I really hope she can hear my good thoughts for her, and that she knows that she's going to get through this, and she's going to be okay, and that I'm here if she needs me. But she means a lot to me, and she's inspired a lot of other people, but she's inspired this part of the main character and her mother's character as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in. The cemetery had just unlocked their wrought iron gates minutes before. As they closed in the corner that was before the entrance to the patch of green that was Elena's father's final resting place. He had always liked the trees that had been planted here. Her mother held their traditional bouquet of flowers that she deposited every other week, a different type of flower every time. This week were a combination of bright blue forget-me-nots and a bundle of light lavender gladiolas, both from the garden. She placed them in a small holder that wasn't quite flush with the ground level. "Do you remember the significance of the flowers?" she asked as she reached for Elena's hand. "I know their meaning." Elena knew the meaning and the significance, but also knew that her mother needed to say it out loud. "The forget-me-not was the first flower your father gave to me, the first time we departed from each other, and every time after. The gladiola was his favorite flower. He always loved the scent. He said it reminded him of me." Her mother barely held back the tears. It had only been a year, and this was the first of his birthdays to pass without him. Elena knew that the only reason her mother had celebrated any other holiday was for her benefit. If it had just been her mother, Elena didn't want to think of such a lonely idea. She just held her mother's hand and stared at the letters on her father's name in stone. The gray granite had flecks of iridescent stone sprinkled throughout, giving it an eerily beautiful quality. The name was cleanly etched, then painted white to clearly contrast from the stone in color, void of any life, just like the body dressed in his suit 6 feet below the cold, hard earth. So very permanent, sharp, and defeating were those letters, but she stared at them and remembered them even as her eyes closed. Michael Martin, beloved father, husband, who served for peace in this world. No matter how many times or for how long she stared, the etched letters never disappeared, and her father's voice was never heard again. Mother and daughter headed back home. Though nothing productive was done, the sadness had drained much of the energy between the two women. Alexandria stopped at the mailbox while Elena let herself into the house, sat on the couch, and closed her eyes. Only for a moment were her eyes closed when her mother came rushing in. "Mom, what is it?" "I just got a letter from a friend who needs my help on the dig site." She hurriedly read the letter in her hand and then saw the postage and date on the envelope. "She's in Egypt." "But her dig, when she told me, was in Greece. What is she doing in Egypt?" "Well, read the letter and find out," Elena remarked as she looked for the file for the cold case, wanting to pick up where she had left off before they left. Alexandria reread the letter aloud. I'm excited to tell you that this journey has been more enlightening than I expected. More connections between our work has been discovered, and I need your eyes to see the words of the pages once lost to time. If your daughter is available, her perspective would be greatly appreciated. I will send you an email with more information and details, but only trust me. These obstacles have even me concerned. Contact me quickly. Only a few know of our work, and even fewer do I truly trust anymore. Signed, Dr. In Jansen. Nadine. Oh, it has been so long since I've heard from her. Wait, Auntie Nada? Yes, one and the same. She and I used to work together on many digs, remember? We worked in graduate school together in many years and many projects later. I remember you took me on a number of digs during the summer months. Never someplace tropical, always the desert. Elena cracked a sarcastic smile as she found the file. Her mother had placed it in the bookshelf, probably to keep it away from Buddy's mouth. Well, check your email and go for it. It is time you got back to the field and you loved your work. It was only second to me and Dad. You know, you're right. If it is the dig I think it is, then we're both going. It's odd though, this letter was sent priority. Postage was only 3 days ago. With genuine curiosity, you don't mean the librarians. Yes. The librarian and the merriment of the library. But that is your life's work. You've been looking for her and you've searched everywhere. I was looking in the wrong places. I never thought to look in one place, and now it seems so obvious. Alexandria had said impassioned with years of research finally bringing forward an answer. She walked to her bookshelves, laptop in hand, in the living room. Behind the couch, there were 2 bookshelves. Alexandria pulled on a book titled The History of the Library, A Theory of the Truth. It was her thesis. This book was published years ago and even republished into commercial reading circles. This had caused in the academic world was so thunderous. Dr. Alexandria Martin was not a known archaeologist in any circle until she was working in graduate school on a theory. This theory was based on years of research prior to her entering academic circles. Her research involved the idea that the Library of Alexandria survived. Not the building itself, but all the documents and books, due to a small group of select individuals that were entrusted with the very secret task to protect all knowledge. They were based in Alexandria, Egypt. Her research took years and many documents that were never translated from an ancient dialect of Greek. This dialect was difficult to read because parts, like any ancient document, were missing, but also due to its rare usage, this dialect was only used by those that could read it. It was a coded language, never spoken, and only written. Alexandria was able to decipher it with great difficulty and kept her research after publishing her basic theory in her thesis secret. She was able to find the secret documents that led to the discovery of the secret knowledge keepers. But it's a mystery thriller kind of in the vein of Dan Brown, and got some history and got some stories to tell.
Very cool.